I took a prereq accounting 101 course, and I was the only one in my class who was loving it. I was the one who was able to convince our clients to buy us pizza on Fridays because I was developing those relationships. I left on more of a staff accountant position, and then we moved to Japan. So my career went on
okay.
halt.
Yeah, Japan. Okay, let's talk about that.
As soon as we moved there, I walked myself down to the local CPA firm and said, "Hi, I'm here. Here's my resume. Let me know if you want me." And they called me that afternoon.
You're old school. This is the advice that our parents give us. Just walk in and say, "This is my name. Here's my resume. Here's why you need to hire me." Erin Pohan, welcome to the People Behind the Books. I'm so excited that you're here. I feel super lucky, like I won the lottery or something. So thank you so much for being here. If you could just start off, quick intro, 60 seconds. Who's Erin? What are you about? And where are you from? And then we will dive into your story.
Okay, first of all, I have to say, I'm excited to be here. I love to stalk all the people that I get to know, whether it's online or in person at conferences. And so I listened to your, I think it was Behind the Bookkeeping Side Hustle. Live with my
Kate.
friend Kate. Yeah, with my friend Kate. And you're an extrovert. And I'm an extrovert. And I don't think the world is ready for this conversation of two extroverted accountants.
Probably not. Yes, that's very much true.
Yeah. So the short story is I claim Cleveland, Ohio as where I'm from. That's where I grew up for the majority of my life. I've lived 10 different places since I married a Marine. So we are now, as of 2019, stationed, or not stationed, but here in Seattle, Washington. And for maybe the short time frame, we'll still be here. We're looking at an RV trip around the country in a few months.
Okay. We'll have to add you to the list of accountants that are in an RV. Right now, I know.
Is there a list?
I already know two other RV accountants that have been documented. Chad Davis is one of them.
Yes, that's the only one I know. Okay.
And there's also another one. I don't recall. I think his first name is Chad as well. And he's been doing RVing as well. So totally don't forget to document that journey. That's really, really cool. So you said you're in Seattle.
I am.
Let's go way, way back. You said you're from Cleveland. You're in school. You graduated high school. You're like, hey, let's go to college. And you thought, hey, I really love bookkeeping, debits and credits. And all. When did that happen? Where did that come in?
So Cleveland is the short story. The longer, let's say the mid story, is halfway through high school. My parents uprooted me from Cleveland to Northern Virginia. And so we were living in Woodbridge, Virginia. I was going to this humongous high school. So I actually graduated from a high school in Virginia and then started off at, actually went back to Cleveland for about a year, went to community college there, just doing general requirement education. Came back to Virginia, and then in Virginia at another community college, I was going for a marketing degree. And I took a prereq accounting 101 course, and I was the only one in my class who was loving it. And so from that moment, even though I loved marketing, I always had a heart for entrepreneurship and the idea of the creativity behind marketing. Something clicked inside of me that accounting made sense. The balance, the debits, the credits, and just being able to always have something that matches theoretically or ideally was really intriguing to me.
Yeah. And then so at what point did you go from school to actually starting to work in the accounting field?
Well, while I was at community college, I was working at a Walmart, and I worked in the customer service department during Christmas, which was torture. And right after that Christmas season, an opening in the accounting office just happened to open. And so I went into this room that was behind a locked door away from the general public. And I was like, this is exactly what I need right now. But we were in this tiny dark room balancing to the penny all of the commerce that happened during that day. And there were days where, it was almost $500,000 that we were trying to balance. And I really enjoyed it. And so from there, I just had this accounting. I always fell into these accounting positions where I went from there. But it wasn't until I met and married my husband, who is in the Marines, that when we moved to Yuma, Arizona, which if you don't know where Yuma, Arizona is, no one does unless you have to be stationed there. It's like right in the corner of Arizona, California, and Mexico. And so people just drive through it. I think there's a movie that every time I mention Yuma, they're like, "Oh, that one movie." I'm like, "Yes, but no." So, we moved there. I think I was like 25, and I was like waking up, drinking a mimosa, baking cookies, bored to death with like some accounting experience, some accounting education. And there was this local CPA firm who put an ad, I think it was like old school, in the paper, and I saw it. And so I applied, and it was an ad for a receptionist position. And so I was like, maybe they'll take this military spouse, maybe they won't. I went, interviewed. By the time I got home, it was a four partner firm, and so I met with three of the partners. And by the time I got home, all three of them had me on speakerphone saying, "We wanted to offer you the job when you were there, but we're so excited to have you." And so that was really my start within public accounting. And I started so in the very bottom as a receptionist. And so
Yeah.
I'm very grateful for that experience because it helped me see the behind the scenes operations of what a firm looks like during tax season, during the summer, planning, and what it looks like throughout the year, just supporting the small businesses as well.
Yeah. Yeah, that's so cool. So you jumped over that whole Walmart story, but I'm still my head's still stuck back there. So were
Yeah,
you quick question, were you just reconciling the commerce in that individual store or just that store?
just that store. And so it was like a DOS computer that was controlling all of the information from the
How long ago
registers.
was this, Erin? I mean, don't date
I mean,
yourself, but
back in the 1900s. Actually, no, it wasn't. It was 2005. Yeah, I started there in
oh,
2005
that's
because I
great.
graduated '04, and so I worked there from '05 to maybe, I don't know, maybe a year or two. But
Okay.
yeah, yeah, it was a while ago. And even that CPA firm I was at, that was 2012, and that was still, we thought we were cutting edge. We were scanning and saving everything electronically onto
Wow.
like our server, and there
That
was
is
no
impressive in
cloud.
2012. It's
Yeah,
amazing.
yeah.
That's really cool. I'm sure it's such a transformation. I similarly started off as a tax season like assistant position where I was scanning all the documents. I wasn't even
Mm-hmm.
preparing returns. That was my first tax season working for a firm. And like you said, like I'm so thankful for that because I got to see what it means to actually run the process because everybody thinks running a tax firm is all about the knowledge. And while that is certainly a large portion of it, another portion of it that people forget is the systems, the workflow, the process. Because you can scale systems, uh, you can only, or I'll say it like this: you can only scale knowledge to the extent that the systems are built to scale.
Yes.
And that's what both that you and I are doing right now. I would say with our individual businesses. So okay, so you're working with a CPA firm. What did how did that progress? You started off as a receptionist. Did you just continue to be a receptionist? First of all, you're probably the best receptionist like of all time. I'm sure everybody walked in and you were just like the most happiest person, and everyone's like, "Why are you so happy to see me? This is taxes. What is going on?" Um, but how long did you end up staying in that position, and how did you progress from there?
Yeah, so yes, I was the one who was able to convince our clients to buy us pizza on Fridays because I was developing those relationships, and I was friendly and I just loved people. And so that was a huge, I don't know, that was the fun part of it all, being the face of the firm. I would say the partners knew right away that because I was already pursuing an education in accounting, that there were going to be tasks that they were going to incrementally, as I had capacity, they would hand over to me. And so one of the first things they did was they helped me learn payroll. so that I could be the backup to, they had one person in charge of payroll. And
So
so I
that
could be
person
the
could go on vacation on the
ex-
off week and not have to run payroll.
exactly. Yeah. They also brought me into this huge project. They were using some old legacy accounting GL, and over the summer, I moved about 60 of their clients off of that GL into QuickBooks Desktop. And so that was really
Wow.
my first rodeo with QuickBooks Desktop, with
Nice.
getting, the opening balances from the balance sheet over into the new desktop file, and making sure AR and AP are in there, and the payroll. And so that was a huge learning experience. But I when I started, I was under the wing of the general manager, and we would go back into the stock room, and she would be placing orders for the firm, and she would get like the staples down to like, okay, we need this many staples for tax season. And I thought that was wild and brilliant that she could just foresee that far ahead and know exactly what the firm needed. And so that is something that stuck with me, to just have that ability and attention to detail to just know how the behind the scenes work. And so I was thankful for that piece, but I was also incredibly grateful for learning the payroll, then the QuickBooks Desktop, and then eventually the 1040s, and then 1040s with the Schedule C came. And so I was starting to help with the actual tax prep piece as well by the time I left. And so I left on more of a staff accountant position. And that was after about 3 years of being there. Then we moved to Japan. So my career
Oh,
went on halt.
okay. Yeah. Japan. Okay, let's talk about
Yeah.
that.
Yeah, that
What was that like?
amazing. We were there for 3 years. We were really fortunate. My husband was one of 10 Marines stationed at this little Navy base just outside of Tokyo. We got to live off of base, so we were just fully immersed into the Japanese culture, which is beautiful. We would see our neighbors. They had like the smallest patch of grass in their front yard, and we'd see our neighbor like cutting the grass with a pair of scissors. Like
No.
it was next level. Like, you think there's like some pressure to like mow your yard in the US, like keeping your house tidy, like sweeping the outside, like it's beautiful and clean. And yeah, it was
That's
just an
really, really
amazing
cool.
experience. Yeah.
As a kid who grew up playing Pokemon games, I'm sure I would really appreciate being visiting Japan. I'm pretty sure isn't
Yeah.
Nintendo based in Japan? I'm pretty sure.
Yeah.
No?
Yeah.
Yeah,
No, yeah.
that's
And actually here in Seattle as well. So, or at
Oh,
least the
okay.
Seattle area. Yeah.
Why not? Why not? So you were
Yep.
following the Nintendo offices. So okay, so
Actually, Pokemon Go came out when we were living in Japan. And
oh my
so we'd
gosh,
see everyone walking around with their phones,
so
before like it
funny.
became a liability and people were dying from looking at their phones.
From walking into the street to capture a Pikachu.
Yeah, right.
Did you end up working any accounting jobs in Japan, or you just took time off then?
Yeah, I chaired as treasurer for a nonprofit. It was a military spouses organization on base, and so we had a huge annual bazaar that brought in about $400,000 revenue. So that was the big money maker.
Nice.
And that was really great because I got to keep up with my QuickBooks experience during that time. I also decided to go back to school for my master's at that time too. So I was
Okay,
keeping up with all of my accounting while I was gone.
that's awesome. That's really cool that you got that opportunity to work in the firm, but then switch back, and then now you were ready to move on to the next stage. So after Japan, where did you guys head to?
We ended up in Philly.
Oh,
So
okay, my side of the
Philly,
country.
yeah, I love Philly. Philly's a
Yeah,
great time.
not too far. So what'd you end up doing there before you moved on?
I as soon as we moved there, I walked myself down to the local CPA firm and said, "Hi, I'm here. Here's my resume. Let me know if you want me." And they called me
You're
that
old school.
afternoon.
This is the advice that our parents give us. Just walk in and say, "This is my name. Here's my resume. Here's why you need to
Yep,
hire me." And it worked.
yep.
See, kids, for all the listeners out there who think that old boomer advice doesn't work, think again. If you're an extrovert enough, like Erin and I, it may actually work. Be
Yep.
careful. What was their reaction?
They called me like that afternoon and they were like, "Okay, when can you start?" I think I was in the next week. So at
That's
that time
amazing.
I had two toddlers at home. So I
Okay.
had, I mean, a 2.5-year-old and a like 9-month old. So they the firm was so accommodating. I ended up working 2 full days, and then during tax season I would work those 2 full days, and then I would go home. I'd walk home, feed the kids, get them in bed, and then I'd walk myself or drive myself back to the firm and work from like 8 p.m. to midnight on my own accord. Like they weren't expecting it. They were just happy with whatever I could give them. And so that was a really nice I don't know, it was just a peek into how the accounting industry should be. I know that's not the case for a lot of people's stories and the 60
Mhm.
hour work weeks, but there are compassionate firms and there have been compassionate and human forward firms in
Yeah.
the industry.
Yeah. Yeah, you're saying the fact that they were cool with you being a mother and actually walking home, putting your kids to bed, which
Yeah.
it always seems so bizarre to me. And I've maybe you've experienced this also, hopefully not, but one experience I had working in an accounting firm was I had just had my third child, and like the night before, it was the end of March, beginning of April, and kids decided to like keep me up the entire night, as kids do for some reason. And I
So
went to
rude.
work the next day. Yeah, exactly. Like, don't you know I have tax returns to prepare? And the next day I walked in and I was so tired that I could not physically work. I had to go home. And let's just say it was a not great ending to that story, although in retrospect it was. But it's so funny to me that we don't look at basic human necessities as actual normal needs.
Yeah.
Which is like why like the right now the thing that I'm trying to build right for myself is like, okay, I'm gonna build an accounting firm. I'm gonna build a tax prep firm that is focused on the fact that we are humans. Obviously, there's a lot of work to do, but we owe it to ourselves and we owe it to our family and we owe it to our customers to institute the right things so we're actually doing the best possible work. Because guess whose tax return is not going to get a lot of attention to detail? The one being prepared on April 14th at 11 o'clock at night. Like that's
Yep.
not going to be a very detailed return. So I feel like you and others are there very much is a push to, I'll say, more human focused accounting. So that's like, I'd say, good to hear. Not too pumped that you had to work until 12, but hey, like we all got
That
to put
was
in the hours
totally
at some
me.
point.
They
Oh,
Yeah,
okay.
they didn't expect it. I'm a night owl. I like my brain turns on at 9 p.m.
Okay, that makes
anyway. So,
sense. Yeah,
yeah.
that checks out. So how long were you in Philly for?
We were only there for 18 months. And so
Okay.
at that point, my husband actually got out of active duty military. We tried to stay because we loved it that much. We had a great community there. It didn't work out. We ended up in Kansas City for about a year. Did not have a job. I take it back. I did have a job. At this time, I was working for an awesome organization called Freedom Learning Group as a subject
Okay.
matter expert. And so I
Oh.
was working with publishers like McGraw Hill and Cengage,
Ooh.
and universities to either update accounting curriculum or supplemental information for accounting textbooks. And I also got to create upper level college courses
Okay,
for
so
accounting.
all the accounting students in the audience just perk their ears up because when I
Yeah.
hear McGraw Hill, that reminds me of my days going through all the accounting prerequisites.
Yeah.
Okay, okay, I need a little bit more background info here. Do you know that like they force you to like do all these manual like journal entries when Excel works so much better? And it's so annoying. This was the biggest pet peeve of mine during doing accounting courses. You know what I'm talking about, right? With like the online.
Do, but I will have a different opinion. I actually really appreciated like the actual debit credit. I mean, I
No,
still
no, I can
remember the
appreciate doing the debits and credits. The thing that I didn't appreciate was the fact that the functionality wasn't as smooth as like using Excel.
yeah,
That's really my only complaint. But I do
yeah,
agree with you that really to fully understand accounting, you have to dive into those different things. I
yeah,
think from my perspective, what was so confusing to me And I actually, okay, so you'll appreciate this. I saw a thread recently online somewhere. Somebody posted, I think it was on Facebook. Somebody was like in like some bookkeeping group. Someone said, "Hey, what's the point of a trial balance? Like, what's the point of that report?" And I'm going to admit, please, for all the haters and listening right now, please, be nice. But I agree. I don't find that to be a useful report. I don't use trial balance anymore. And I think part of the reason, and it was sort of in discussed in the comments, was like computers do that nowadays. QuickBooks physically cannot go out of sync between debits and credits. It's not possible. Now, it's very possible you're going to have an account like opening balance equity that's not a real account that is just
Yeah.
going to be there to balance it. But the reason I don't look at the trial balance is because it doesn't sort of matter. I can pull a balance sheet and see all the accounts, and then I can pull a P&L and see all the accounts. Now, whatever, everyone's going to have their opinion. I'm curious to hear yours. But I just thought it
Yeah.
was funny, and as I was doing all those McGraw-Hill homeworks, I remember just thinking to myself, like, computers do this. Why am I doing this?
Yeah. So I will say the only reason I can think people still ask for that trial balance is because they're living in pre-cloud
Prehistoric,
accounting.
yeah,
Yeah.
dinosaur
And
times.
so
Okay.
before they could just get an accountant user login and access their tax client's
Yes.
QuickBooks,
Yeah.
the trial balance had all the accounts in one place. And
Okay.
so they could
I guess
use
that's a
that.
decent, yeah,
And there's a
answer.
few CPAs that, we have mutual clients and they do my clients' tax returns and they ask for that. And that tells me that they're not in my clients' books. I would rather them be in my clients' books, looking
Yeah.
around, poking around, making
Yeah.
sure. I also know they might not be engaged for that and they are just going to take what is there.
Whatever you give me.
And yep, exactly. So,
$20,000 a vehicle expense and you're a graphic
yep.
designer? Sure, why not?
Yep. So for those preparers who are just not in the books, trial balance has everything they need.
Okay, fine. I sort of agree. So that's cool. So also a little bit of inside baseball for anyone listening. My wife is actually a curriculum designer, and she
Oh,
did some work for Cengage at some point, like some contract work.
okay.
So I'm
Yeah.
familiar with the industry. If you're ever looking for
Yeah.
someone to do curriculum, she does contract work. She has like a master's in curriculum and instruction, and now she's also going for her doctorate in educational leadership. There's a
Amazing.
lot happening, but my wife and I always
Yeah.
talk about like that's one of our passions of like good curriculum. And I even like to think about it that even content like what I'm building with a podcast in essence is a form of curriculum. And
Absolutely. And I linked relevant accounting podcasts to my courses because the whole idea. So my brand is Upkeeping. That's my firm's name, and our mission is to make accounting relevant and understandable. And so that is encompassing of everything that I do, including when I was creating those courses. I wanted those courses to be more than just black and white pages, that students had to read 60 pages every week. I wanted them to be, I think I linked them to like the accounting podcast episodes. I wanted, like, they did projects in Excel because I was like, you need to work in Excel.
yeah,
Um,
yeah,
and it was everything that I could think of that would actually be useful once they enter the workforce.
yeah, yeah, totally. So okay, so you were in Kansas City, you're working, doing some stuff for Cengage, doing some stuff, making college students crazy by giving them assignments in McGraw Hill, and
Yeah.
then where'd you go from there?
Then we knew Kansas City would be a stepping stone to get eventually to Seattle. And so my husband's
Okay,
from here. Our goal was to get here,
nice,
raise our kids here. And so we did that. It happened. I was still working for Freedom Learning Group on all of those assignments, which kudos to your wife. Creating curriculum and courses is like a marathon. It is a lot of
totally,
work.
yeah, yeah. It's
Uh,
yeah. She's finishing a workbook right now, and now they're like at the design stage, and she's still like overseeing the whole thing, and it's so exciting. And but I know
yeah,
like the outcome is amazing. Like
it's
when
so
she works with
rewarding.
schools, yeah,
Yeah. Sometimes I still look up the universities to see if my syllabus is still current, if it's still a
yeah.
course they're teaching, and it's really
That's
cool.
awesome. That's great.
Um So we ended up in Seattle. I was still working for that organization. I started doing some work for another bookkeeping firm locally. And then I ran into some targeted Facebook ads about running your own bookkeeping business. It was a workshop by Serena Shoup, Ambitious Bookkeeper. Did the 3-day course and oops, started a business. And so that's how that happened.
Oh no, the worst possible outcome, I guess.
Yeah, right.
For some. Okay,
Yeah.
so you actually responded to an online ad. That's it's pretty cool because you see those pretty often. You never really know,
Yeah.
is this similar to the when you want a free iPod from our childhood, or like, oh, is this something legitimate that's going to give me an outcome? So for you, it sounds like it was a major success story. So tell me about that. You started a business, and all of a sudden, out of nowhere, you are have a bookkeeping business. What how did that happen?
Yeah, so this was 2021 and I didn't even know I was starting one. I had one bookkeeping client, which was like a dad of a friend for since Philadelphia, and so I was doing his books and I did not have like enough confidence to ever even consider that I could do it myself. And it wasn't until I worked for that other bookkeeping firm when I was going through the interview process, they asked me, why aren't you doing this for yourself? Why aren't you? And I was like, what do you mean? Like, that sounds crazy. Um, and so when I took this workshop, by the end of the third day, I was like, oh, I think I have everything I need. And most importantly, I have a community. I have the person at the next desk that I can ask a question to, which was a huge part of my firm life, right? Like we worked together. We would go ask each other questions when we needed to run something by someone else. And so having this community of other people who were doing it too, figuring it out, really encouraged me to know that I could do it too. And if I can't, I have people I can turn to. And so so that was like January, February 2021. I formed Upkeeping in March technically. And then by August, I had one client who completely replaced the salary from my other job. To this day, I still have that one client. And to this day, I still have my first client ever. So that's really special.
That's impressive.
I went through a lot of learning experiences in these past 5 years, but it's just really neat to still have
I did
clients who've been there.
Yeah, that's really, really cool. How did you come up with the name Upkeeping? Because it's such a great name.
Thank you. During that workshop, I think it was like $27 workshop, and then you could upgrade to VIP for like $49. And I was like, sold.
Yeah,
Like,
it's pretty
duh.
solid.
VIP came with like these live, like after the workshop calls, this live small group cohort on Zoom. And we went into this deep dive session of okay, so what will your firm name be? And so I was just doing some research, and at that time that I had just got a client off of Upwork. So I was like, up, and then I just was trying to think of like what would go with that, upkeeping. And then I like looked up the definition of upkeeping, and it was like to maintain in good condition, to maintain in good financial condition. I'm like, there we go. So
That's
we do
awesome.
really, it's accounting cleanups and bookkeeping, so upkeeping.
Okay. But that's the type of name where I'm like, I can't believe someone thought of that originally and like it wasn't already another bookkeeping
Yeah.
firm. Like,
Yeah.
how'd you do that?
Yeah.
That's so great. It almost seems so obvious when you look back, but that's awesome. So
Yeah.
how did you tell us about upkeeping? How did you build like I mean, you said you had that first client from back from Philly, but then you got another client replaced your salary, which is still I'm still looking for that client for myself. But hey,
Yeah.
one step at a time, But
Yeah.
you got this next client and then things started rolling in. Like at what point did you realize that this was a business and not just a like you owning your own job?
Ooh, that's a great question. And I would say, I really went off on my own because I wanted to be the one to be able to take our kids to school and pick them up. So for a while, that's the way I looked at it. Where I'm like, oh no, I'm doing this while they're at school so that I can pick them up. And I would say probably not until last January 2025 did I not make this like more important in my mind. And that's because my husband was working at Boeing before, so he ended up getting laid off. Before he got laid off, I had resolved that he was quitting his job. I had, the accountant in me, I had made a 6 month runway of our plan of what that would look like, of what that meant for upkeeping, what I had to do to make it happen and make it continue to happen after that 6 month runway. And then we just got so lucky that after I told him he was quitting because it was killing him inside, um, that they laid him off. I'm like, sweet, 3 month extension on the runway. And so,
That's awesome.
but yeah, so January 2025, he became a stay at home dad.
Okay.
So he is staying home, apart from still in the reserves for the Marine Corps. So he goes away to Dallas one weekend a month. But apart from that, it's on me. And so like now that it's my family's livelihood, um, it's freaking important.
Yeah. Oh, totally. 100%. Yeah. Like that's why we go to work. See, it's
Yeah.
funny you said that you originally started this so that way you could be the one to bring your, kids to school. In a way, I'm almost like the opposite. Like I started my business so that way my wife could bring the kids to school.
Yeah.
And that way, she could be there when they come home and be available. I'm still working on the whole, being around for family more, which it's difficult when you're in that building stage because there's just so much to do. I mean, this
Yeah.
year alone, I've instituted so many new business practices, and I'm already seeing the payoff, but it just takes so much work to get there. So
Yeah.
right now, upkeeping, I'm pretty sure it's more than just you. Am I right?
Yes, yeah. So we're a small team. I've got 3 W-2 employees who are helping. So we've got 2 local
Awesome.
ladies here in the Seattle area, and then we just hired a more mid-level, more intentional hire to take stuff off my plate, and she's in
Okay.
Indiana.
Amazing. Oh, look at you.
Yeah.
You're a multi-state company over here. That's
Yep.
really, really cool. That's
Yeah.
that's 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 so exciting. And I think also it's so cool to see what you can build once you start adding those multiple dimensions.
Yes.
It's like y- until you do it, you almost don't realize the power that comes with it.
And it's also extremely humbling because you get to a point where you need it, and then you invite someone in to that need to say, this is what I need help with. Help
Yeah,
me. And
yeah.
so it's been great. She just hopped on in November, and we've already implemented so much change in the firm, which has been incredibly helpful for me as the leader, and then as someone who's, thinking ahead to what's next as well.
It's great. Tell our listeners a little bit about what the day-to-day life is like running upkeeping. I mean, I see you have 3 employees, you have a bunch of clients. Like what is the current state of what you have built look like, dealing with clients, dealing with schedules and everything you have going on?
I live by my calendar. That's like a huge piece of advice for anyone starting a business, is to make sure your calendar is set right. It's taken 5 years to, not mistakenly schedule 2 things at once. I still make mistakes, especially if, like, just recently I was supposed to have a connection with someone in the industry, and their calendar, the link came over and I didn't hit yes. And I'm just used to things
No.
just getting added to my calendar automatically. And so I felt bad about that. But so I usually start my days with email, and for the last 2 months, I've been at inbox zero, which has been wild, maybe a little longer now.
You're
I
making me
I
jealous over
sat there.
here.
No, no, you know what I did? One day I was just so tired of it. I just marked everything red. I mean, I did my due diligence and I made sure there wasn't anything really outstanding. I
Okay.
I made I put a filter on and put everything to red, and that was day 0. And I created a few systems within our Gmail account where I've got like tasks related to emails that come in client folders. And I am clearing that inbox out, either putting it into a task or responding or putting it away. I would say 90% of the stuff I don't even need to put onto a task. It's really frustrating. Email is
Right.
just so convoluted. There's just so much unnecessary email at this
Yeah.
point.
I think also for myself, I use email as my own personal to-do list. So I'll email
Mm-hmm.
myself like, oh,
I
implement
do that
this.
too.
Right. But then you actually have to look at the email and go, okay, now let me spend an hour redoing this pipeline or something like, or workflow. And then like you can't really clear it until you do it. So I
Yeah.
don't know. I feel
Let me
like I'm,
ask you something though. Have you
yeah.
ever emailed yourself? There's times where I've emailed myself and I get the email later. I'm like, who is yelling
Mm,
at me in this? I'm like, oh, that's me reminding me. That's me
I,
reminding future me in like all
yeah,
caps.
I may have, that may have happened once or twice or something like that. Or
Yeah.
or I'll do the opposite where I'll go, oh, thank you, past me, for remembering to remind
Right?
myself of this really important thing. So,
Right?
okay, but what do your like daily interactions look like with clients and working with your team? Oh, and I have to ask, that calendar, is it a Google Calendar?
Well, yes, everything's on Google, but if you're scheduling on my website, it's Acuity, which is connected to my Google Calendar.
Okay, but it's not
Yeah.
okay. So you're not a, because see, a little bit of inside baseball. So my wife is a paper calendar girl, and I
Oh,
am an
well,
electronic Google Calendar person. And let me
yeah.
tell you, when they say opposites attract, there is no greater example of that, because scheduling things with the family becomes really difficult when I can't just like send an invite.
Yeah,
It has to be like an actual conversation. So I've been trying to get
I
her to
get
switch
it.
to an electronic calendar for a long time.
I've
Hasn't
got
happened yet, but
both. I've got both.
oh,
I live
okay,
by my electronic calendar, but I have a journal daily calendar that I need the dopamine hits of getting things done. And so
I
I
get it.
write
I
out
get it.
all of
I get
my
it.
client meetings, my tasks, but I am still the one who is client facing in the firm. So
Okay.
that's something we're working on transitioning. We have a few clients that our team members are client facing, helping to support or reaching out to. But ideally, with this latest hire, our newest team member, she's going to be taking over more of that and starting to hop on client calls in 2026 at some point. So it's something that I'm working on that I have to let go. But ideally, for upkeeping to continue its growth, like I can't do all the work. And so what it looks like today is I probably have 2 or 3 client calls. Towards the end of the month, it really not as many of those client calls. And I'm working very diligently toward offloading the actual tasks and the recurring stuff and creating Loom videos. We've got a Loom library we're building out with all the SOPs, and that feels really good. And
It's
I'm
awesome.
already seeing like the fruits of checking in on an account and the work's done, and I just have to do a review. And I am also creating content, and I'm also running a conference. And so I get to focus on my other passions besides the actual work within
Yeah.
upkeeping, and just kind of feed back into that marketing love that I originally had before accounting.
Yeah, let's take a chance to segue into that. So first of all, you have an awesome YouTube series that you've been putting out, which I will say I did binge because it was really enjoyable to
Yes.
listen to. I know
Woo,
you got
worth
one for
it.
sure. Yeah. But so for anyone who's listening, please check out Erin on YouTube. It's a great series talking all about the bookkeeping industry and everything she's doing there, which yeah, I really enjoyed. It's great getting an inside scoop of like seeing like all these back and forths. I'm sure you understand, like when you're a firm owner, the ping pong that's constantly being played in your head is, well, how could I do this? I could do this way, but I could also do it that way. And then, well, maybe here are the pros and cons. And you're just like, I go to sleep thinking about this. it's
Yeah,
it's it's a lot. So it's nice to just like
yeah,
hear those thoughts in just a calm, easy to digest way, where then I can go, hey, maybe I could take this back, for myself. But
yeah.
well, let's talk about that, and I want to jump into also the conference. What made you decide to start getting into more content, and how did that come about?
Because I can't shut up. That's probably why. If you are an accountant or bookkeeper or in this industry in any capacity and you want to nerd out on like the specifics of what it looks like to run a firm and hear like the good and the bad and the trials and the errors, like that's what this it's called Tales from an Entrepreneurial Accountant is this little mini series I'm doing. I'm trying to shoot for one uh, episode a week. I already missed last week because 1099 season. That's why.
Yeah,
But
those
I
in
mean, that's an
1099s.
episode in itself, so that's fine. But the idea is when I go to conferences, which I love to do, I love to meet people. I feel like the meet and a lot of my favorite moments at conferences are the hallway conversations, the in between
Yes.
session conversations. You get so much rich conversation and knowledge sharing between the other firm owners. And so I want my episodes to be that experience for people who just happen to find it on YouTube. And so I'm sharing what it looks like to run a firm. And then, I'm seeing a lot of people sharing on LinkedIn and I'm seeing I don't know, I just think there's so many different perspectives and there's so many people who are saying I'm doing it this way and it's working. I'm doing it this way and it's working. There's people who are saying I'm doing it this way and you should too. And I'm like, okay, that's a little aggressive. But here is how I'm doing it. Take it or leave it. But
Yeah,
no, this is an option.
that's great. And then on that note, conferences. Tell us about this really cool conference you have going on. Uh,
Yeah.
Wave. What is it?
WAVE-Seattle.
WAVE-Seattle, because I saw pictures and I'm like, I mean, I'm also now a conference person and my goal is just to like sort of make enough money to support my family and then go to every single conference. That's like my joking slash not really joking goal. I started off, and I've told this story on the podcast before, but I was a recipient of the Accounting Cornerstone Foundation scholarship to go to
Amazing.
the NAEA's tax summit. Was it 2 years ago? And like since then, I'm like, oh my gosh, I have to go to every conference. And I went this past year myself, and I've connected with like other scholarship winners that are similarly now also being like, hey, I'm gonna go to conferences. And it's
Yeah.
so much fun. As much as I enjoy tax season, I'm looking forward to after tax season to conference season. So how did
Yeah.
you get started by starting a conference for yourself? Like how did that even happen?
Yeah, it goes hand in hand with my conference experience. My first conference was QuickBooks Connect, but when it was called QuickBooks Connect in
Yeah.
2022, and I walked in, I mean, that's thousands of accountants in one place, and
I had
everywhere I
such
went,
FOMO. I had so much FOMO this year when I saw it going on. I could
yeah,
not help
the
myself. It was,
FOMO is real. Yeah, I think
yeah,
I'm not going to go to as many conferences this year just because we're prepping for our big RV trip, but I know I'm going to struggle hard with the FOMO.
yeah. Hey,
But
just RV to the different conferences. What do you mean?
yeah, yeah, yeah.
Plan out the trip. Okay, and so
Mm,
right. So then,
yeah.
how did that end up happening? You decided to start your own conference.
It was really so at that first conference, with thousands of accountants everywhere, I would see these accountants who knew each other and they'd run up and give each other hugs and and they'd support each other with, at the sessions if their friend was up on the stage. And I thought that was beautiful. And I was like, even if I'm running at that time, it felt like a solopreneur firm, even though I had an employee at that time or just the idea of being remote, that you can still have community within the accounting space and these
Yes.
conferences really brought community together. And so I did QuickBooks, and then my next conference was Bridging the Gap, which hands down my favorite conference. They do such a great job at curating the sessions, and the people who attend are so incredible. The first Bridging the Gap that I went to, I walked up to this table. Nancy McClellan, Roman Villar, and Jennifer Diamond were at this table. And I said, oh, hi, I've been following you on LinkedIn. And they all turned their immediate attention to me and wanted to know who I was,
Yeah.
asked me tons of questions, and I felt so welcomed.
Yeah,
And it's so important to feel that when you're working, in a office by yourself most of the days. And so
totally.
I will never forget that. I will always be grateful for that moment in my story. And after I left that conference, I wanted to take some of it back from. So I always call, I want one conference afterglow. I want to have a moment that can be impactful beyond the actual event. And
Mm,
so my conference afterglow from Bridging the Gap was, I'm going to bring this momentum to Seattle. I'm going to host an event here that brings together the same spirit of community. And so I hosted an evening event for women, and it was great. We had catered tacos, we had speakers and a panel, and there was such great momentum from that I was like, okay, let's host a conference. And it was one of those things where it's like you build it in public. If I say I'm going to do it on LinkedIn and people respond, then I'm doing it. And so we did it. This past May 2025 was our first one. We had 65 women come for it. So WAVE stands for Women in Accounting, Visionaries, and Entrepreneurs.
nice.
WAVE-Seattle. And I got
Can
really
sorry,
sick.
can we get a Mave?
Yeah.
Can we do a Mave?
Maeve, I love it.
Yeah,
Yes.
yeah.
Yeah.
Let's add that as well because,
I know.
like I said, I get so much FOMO. I want to be there
You
too.
know what? Like I always say, like when people ask, what happens if a man signs up? I'm like, I'm not gonna stop them. Come join. We need witnesses to what we're doing.
Yeah,
So
exactly.
and we do have men in the audience, and my husband is there,
Yeah,
supporting it too. So
that's awesome.
yeah, it's great. And I was just blown away at the fact that I thought I was bringing this to Seattle for the point of, like, we don't have to travel to find community, but people traveled from 10 states in Canada to come
My
to that
goodness.
event. And that's when I was like,
Wow.
okay, I'm onto something. Like, people are yearning for this. And so we're doing it again. And
Oh
this
my
year
goodness.
we've got more incredible speakers. So last year it was Twyla Verhels, Hannah Smolinski, Brittany Malador. We had a panel, and then we had a live podcast with the ambitious bookkeeper and workflow queen, which was incredible. And that's on YouTube, and is just one of my favorite moments of last year's event. And then this year we've got Nicole Davis, we've got Brittany
Nice.
Brown, who is huge in the just pioneering modern accounting education world. She's speaking, and then we've got Lynette Osconnell, and then we also have Diana Gleason, and then we're also going to do another live podcast and another panel. So yeah, I could
That's
talk all day
so
about it, but it's
exciting.
so fun. Yeah.
That's amazing. Where can people find out about that conference?
I can give you the link to it. It's supposed to be waveseattle.com. It's a domain name that sometimes transfers to the right website,
No.
sometimes doesn't work.
We got to
So,
get IT on
yeah,
it. Okay, so while
I
IT is
know.
working on
Yeah.
it, you can just for now you can Google Wave Seattle and hopefully
Yeah.
yeah
Or find me
that'll
on
come up.
LinkedIn. Yep.
Yeah,
I'm
just
always talking
anyone
about it.
listening, DM Erin on LinkedIn. She'll send you the link.
Yep. Exactly. Yep. But it's
That's
May 15th, which is a Friday this year. So we'd love to have you.
so cool. So cool.
Yeah.
Hey, you know, let me ask you this. Okay, the person listening, they're thinking of getting into the accounting world, or maybe they've gotten into the accounting world and they're not really sure it's for them. They're not sure they're ready to take on that responsibility of ownership. What would be your advice to someone starting out who's just unsure and maybe they just have some fears of like, will I be able to find a client? Will I be able to do the work? Do I even know how to do 1 plus 1? Like
Yeah.
it's so easy to put our knowledge down and forget how good we are at things. What would be your advice to that person?
Yeah, I think I was really surprised by the level of mindset work that I've had to do as a firm owner, and continually work on, whether it is finding clients, handling rejection, making mistakes, recovering from those mistakes, um, pricing, knowing my value, knowing my worth. And I would want someone listening to this to know that we are all a work in progress. There's never a time where you are going to feel so ready and prepared. Sometimes you just have to jump in and start somewhere, and you might learn some hard lessons along the way, but guess what? You're learning and growing and leveling up each time. And so I really truly believe, and I know everyone's situation is different because like health insurance and like making a leap from a corporate role to running your own firm looks different salary wise and all of that. So if you're in those situations and you have the ability to try it out on the side, do that for a little bit. And if you are in a situation where you can take more of a leap and more of a chance, don't let your mindset limit you from your potential.
It's really, really powerful. Great. That's awesome. Well, on that note, where visionary wise, where do you see this profession going? I know I talk about this a lot, but there's so much discussion about AI this and AI that, and I'm
Yeah.
still waiting for AI to do my job. Hasn't really happened yet. Still been busy,
Yeah.
but where do you see this profession going from here? Things I feel like are only getting more complicated as, especially like, I'll bring on I'm sure you see this also where you bring on a new client and they're like, oh, I only have one or two accounts. And then you're like, okay, so a checking account, but also a savings account. Oh, also they accept payments through Square. Oh, they also accept payments through Stripe. Oh, also QuickBooks payments because they did that once. Oh, and also they have a Venmo account. And it's like, we're trying to simplify things by adding technology, and it's actually getting a lot more complex.
Yeah.
And so where do you see the pathway of the industry in general?
I think with AI, we can actually become more human focused because let AI handle the recurring stuff. That it's starting to do a good job on that. We still have to have eyes on it. Um, but ideally, AI should be freeing us up to be able to put the human, um trying to think of the right word, but basically like we can look at a client's information and analyze, and AI can analyze too, but we have judgment and we have human judgment that takes into context feelings, relationships, and context of backstories, and context of how risk averse the owner is, or how much, do they want to spend $300,000 in ad spend now to have a return later, and things like that, where I truly think the AI is a tool for us to have better conversations with our clients in the end.
Yes. It's almost our judgment's going to be the one thinking about their emotions
Yeah.
of how we saw their expressions and how that vibe that we felt with them. And we know, okay, well, this client isn't ready for that type of jump, but maybe this one is.
Yeah.
It,
Yeah,
it,
and
I,
I don't
I
know
totally
what
feel
that
that.
looks like on the tax side, because tax, maybe AI can help to, but maybe not. Tax law is so crazy. Like we go to school, and one of the questions I saw that you had asked was like, what makes us like different in the
Yeah.
accounting industry? I
Yeah.
think it's the fact that we have taken the time to untangle the beast that is tax code and all of that.
Yeah.
And although I don't do taxes anymore,
Yeah.
like I am an accountant by education and experience, I've done taxes. It's still incredibly relevant for me as the bookkeeper to our clients to know that information. But we have taken the time to actually know the tax code, or how tax will affect our clients' business decisions. And I think that's really important for our roles as their like financial stewards.
Right. One funny thing about AI is that it's also only as strong as the information that it has access to. And we're still working with the weakest link being like state and local agencies, revenue agencies that are just working on a 1990s platform, basically.
Yeah.
And,
Oh my
you know,
goodness.
I mean, the state of Maryland, just for the first time, finally, this past month, introduced the ability for you to pay them electronically online without creating an account. in 2026. Exactly. And when I found that out, it was like the biggest deal in the whole world. They made a whole LinkedIn announcement about it. And but like I'm like, really? 2026? Like we have rockets in the sky going to the moon, and like we can't figure out something as simple as payments to a
Yeah,
revenue
don't even get
agency?
me started. I have to log into the Washington sales tax portal 3 times before it actually accepts my
Right,
login.
exactly.
So,
Things
yeah.
like that. So I'm like, okay, we still got some time, certainly. Okay, the last segment that I do on the show is to get a little bit more knowledge about who you are as a person and what makes you tick. So, some rapid fire questions: coffee
Let's
or
go.
tea?
Coffee.
Coffee. Morning or night?
Night.
Night for sure.
I feel like this is so quick. I'm so excited.
Okay, dark mode or light mode?
Light mode.
Light mode. Okay, I
Yeah.
totally agree. Unless I'm doing a podcast.
Okay.
Chocolate or vanilla?
Ooh, vanilla.
Okay, but would you be amenable to mint chocolate chip?
No, because I don't eat processed sugar. So I have
Ooh, you're a
like
better person than
no.
me, but I don't know if we can be friends anymore.
I know it's
Okay,
hard.
how about just mint in general? Mint leaves. Mint leaves.
Yeah.
That's not
Oh yeah,
processed
I
sugar.
like mint. Yeah.
Okay. I used to grow
Yeah.
mint when I was in school. I had an apartment, and I used to grow mint, and I loved it because every morning I would walk out, rub the mint leaves, smell them, and I had a better day. I should get mint leaves again. That was fun. Um, are you more weekends or weekdays type of gal?
Weekends. What?
Weekends?
Who would choose weekdays? That's I don't trust them.
Accountants, we're structured people. Maybe we like the
No,
structure of the.
I
Okay,
don't
fine.
trust
We're gonna
them.
stay. Okay. Now this one tells a lot about a person. Oxford comma or no Oxford comma?
Oh, Oxford, comma.
Okay, good.
Yeah,
Okay. Now
yeah,
we can be friends
yeah.
again.
I listened to your conversation with Phyllis, and she's an Oxford, comma
Oh
girl
yeah, yeah.
too.
Okay, good, good,
So
good.
yeah,
Now,
yeah.
and then I guess another question related to that is: have you stopped using M dashes now that AI has taken that over?
I go one above it. I go back and change them to my little short hyphens.
The short
So it's
hyphens.
like,
Okay, because
yeah,
now you know only a human would do an
only a
improper
human.
M
Yeah,
dash.
yeah.
I give instructions to ChatGPT. Make sure to leave one typo in there, just so that everybody doesn't realize it's AI.
Oh.
It's custom instructions. Well, Erin, this has been so much fun. Where can people find you on social media? Where do you hang out?
I am on LinkedIn primarily. I'm also on Instagram. Instagram's upkeeping.co, but reach me at LinkedIn. I'm just Erin Pohan on there, and I would
Amazing.
love to connect.
Amazing. Okay, well, more information will be about Erin in the show notes. And thank you for listening to the people behind the books.
Thanks for having me.